Hi guys, today with us we have Stamatia Scarvelis. She's a hammer thrower now. In high school and college she threw everything, threw really far. She switched from glide to rotation in college and shot put, threw discus really far as well. Weight throw 24.06, that's her PR. In hammer throw 71.33. She's going to talk to us about her experience as a high school athlete, as a college athlete, and now as a professional athlete. She almost made the finals in Doha World Championships, and she's going to share with us that experience as well. Incredible athlete, incredible person, and really hard worker. Stamatia Scarvelis, guys. Check it out. All right. Well, today with us we have Stamatia Scarvelis, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yes, you of all people. Yeah, it's perfect.
Stamatia, thank you so much for your time. I posted some questions to be asked for you, and I got a lot of them. We will not be able to go through all of them, but for those who haven't seen your video, and I encourage you guys to check a video that Stamatia just did a couple of days ago about Q&As, about how did you get into throwing? You can tell us.
A little shortened version. Basically, my oldest brother got into it when he was young. Neither of our parents really did track. My dad did high school track. My mom didn't. But yeah, my brother just took it up pretty young, and so then my middle brother Nicholas followed after him, and then when I was old enough, I just kind of followed along in the footsteps, and I did distance running, sprints, and one time I was forced to pick up the shot and throw it, and it didn't go well. No. And I wore it off for as long as I could, but then I started doing multi-events. I started doing the pentathlon when I was getting a little older, and then when I was a sophomore in high school, I was told probably have best potential in the throwing. Let's put the running and jumping to the side, and so that's why I really took it seriously and started on from there.
Yeah. Well, that's your family. Your dad and your mom, were they track and field athletes as well, or did it start from the brother?
It really started from my brother. My dad did it in high school. He did the high hurdles, but that's about it. He stopped after high school. My mom, they were very big into Greek dancing, actually. So
okay,
they have, everyone always asks if they were into track and field, and no, it kind of just started from when my brother got into it, and then it just kind of became a whole sibling event. So yeah. That's great that your parents let you guys choose, right? You don't necessarily have that as a choice sometimes, right? With the athletes who are very talented, the parents kind of nudge them, less and less you see these days, but they kind of nudging them hard into the sport. They think that it should be best for them, so that's awesome. And I talked to your dad, I remember, during recruiting. A very humble guy, very knowledgeable guy, very experienced, and I could see already then that you were in great hands, that you're going to be very successful. So in talking about that success, you were a top recruit out of high school. You were one of the best throwers in NCAA, one of the most versatile throwers in NCAA of all time. Being able to throw shot put, weight, discus, and hammer like that, it's you don't see that very often, right? What are some things or challenges that you had in high school that you didn't know that you're going to have in college? How did that transition to college? How was that for you? That was the big thing. You really have no idea what to expect stepping into the NCAA world. It's a huge transition that you really can't prepare for. I mean, I was lucky enough to work with someone who had been in the NCAA world himself, and even having that, it really doesn't even still prepare you for what you're about to step into, because what you're stepping into is everyone on the same playing field, as far as we all have access to amazing facilities. Yeah. We all have access to, good weight room schedules and throwing schedules and all this. And so, I think definitely the first time around, I kind of mentioned this in my video, it really took me by storm, and I went into college with these crazy high expectations. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I don't just keep going up in a perfect linear progression. That was, a blow to the ego, and I took it pretty hard. But the second time around, the recruiting process, I really just enjoyed, like you and I, when I came on my visit, it was just talking about throwing, talking about training, and getting the more authentic side of how are we going to really work, which is difficult when kids are going on these visits and they're just being shown a show. And and it's hard for some kids when they get to then that school, and it's like, well, I didn't realize that my 2-day visit was,
It's
not
gonna
what
be
it's
like
really.
this all the time, right?
Yeah. So that's just recruiting alone. But then when you get into competitions, it's just like there are fewer meets than in high school, because in high school you have like I think I had like, sometimes you'd have 2 meets a week. You'd have one in the middle of the week, and then you'd have one on the weekend. And so there's just so much range to just go out and throw and go out and PR, and anything you kind of do, you're just getting so much volume. Where in, and the competition level might be lower. So anything you do might look good. When in college, I have a lot less opportunities for competitions, and then there's really high level people there. So there's a lot, you might not make a final if you have an off day.
Yeah.
So, and then you don't have another meet for 2 weeks. So that was the really big differences you see, and that's a hard transition to make. And so it's really hard to prepare high school athletes for that, especially when they have, like you said, I had some success in high school. Yeah. So my standard, maybe my ego is already like up here, so if you have a kid who is just really naturally talented, their bar is set so low that anything they do in college is going to be, doing better. Yeah. I had to deal with my own expectations and, pressure I put on myself. But yeah, it's hard to prepare kids stepping into the collegiate world. And I mean, every kid takes it differently, probably.
Yeah. And thank you for being so honest. This is, you don't hear this often, right? And I think it's very important for these kids, these athletes, young athletes, to understand this. Somebody like you who went through this, obviously, a lot of success, and with all that you're sharing, right, your experience, your struggles, that really, even though you are a modest person, and like I said, I talked to your dad, I talked to you during your junior year, senior year in high school, you were never like, oh no, coach, I'm the best, I'm gonna kick everybody's ass, right? So you were humble to begin with, but still you are competing at this level that you don't understand that when you come to college, the bar is gonna be so much higher. And even though, again, you understand that you really can't, what you're saying is you really can't really prepare for that, because then you are struck with all these, the Dion Pierce was at the same time, right? All these throwers, Ravens, you're like, oh my God, right? This is a different level, right?
Yeah. I got a tiny taste of that my senior year when I was at like New Balance, and myself and I think 4 other girls all threw over 50 feet at that New Balance indoor national meet, and I got 3rd, I think. Wow. I threw like 51 feet, and that's when Raven broke the national indoor record, and Ashley Blake, threw far, and Lena Geiger, was also throwing 50 feet, getting 4th. So yeah, I mean, that was just a little bit of a taste, like, oh no, you don't just step in and take an okay throw and still get to win. It's maybe you have a great day and you're not going to still walk away on top. So yeah, it's hard to prepare for that. But
do you think also that first year, now this is, some athletes have it better than others, I will see a lot of athletes that first year do well in the weight room, do well in class, but because they are so overwhelmed with everything, right? You have classes to go to, tutoring, you have this schedule, you might be able to handle the schedule, but there's this little pressure, behind, even if you're on top of your things, that you have to do this, you have to do this, you got to turn to the paper at this time, you got to respond to your tutor, to your advisor, to coach, to strength coach, you got to be with the trainer. Like, there's so many things that you think you're handling, but and like I said, better in the weight room, but then you hit the throwing and you're like, oh my God, I can't throw, to save my life.
And it's also things like, oh, I'm in charge of when I go to bed, I'm in charge of what I eat now, things like that. I mean, I've had those conversations with like freshmen on the Tennessee team that, it's difficult because there's so many different variables. And I think I was talking with Newell about it one time, and And I was like, they don't understand. Like, they're in charge of their own eating. They're in charge of their own sleep habits. They're completely uprooted from a system that they've been built in. And yeah, they might not PR at first, you know, in the first couple meets. And he was like, yeah, but did you listen to that? Like, did you think that way when you first came to college? You don't really realize that and can really process that until maybe you're a little bit older too, you know?
It's a hard thing to explain until you experience it, right? You don't really understand how everybody's thinking like I'm very special. I can go through this. This is not going to happen to me, right? And next thing you know, you're in that same situation, and it needs to humble you a little bit to have that jump. How over your college career, what are some things that you learned along the way, freshman, sophomore, junior year, senior year, that you wish you started with and that helped you? What are some good advice that you might have, like you said, for your younger self or for freshmen and sophomores in college right now?
Yeah, freshman year, there was so much it was like a tryout every day I was going to practice. There wasn't this concept of what I really learned coming to Tennessee was like, let's just lay a baseline. Let's just get reps in, get good reps in, and set the foundation. And you don't need to be going out and throwing crazy far every practice. And it doesn't need to be this high and low of living and dying by every day of practice. So that's something I had a tough time with. I mean, my first year of college, I also redshirted. So then you go a year without seeing a lot of competition. Luckily in California, in Southern California, there are tons of all-comers meets. So I'd borrow a teammate's car and I'd drive an hour and I'd throw in a meet and
on a
try to get my
task,
competition that way. But it's a little different still. Then experiencing that first year of competing again and then it being that super high level, just allow yourself to grow into it. And I still doubt I would be able to really deal with that. It's just something, I guess, if you're that type of person, you have to go through, and some kids deal with it a lot better. I mean, there are some of those outliers who take to college right away. But you just have to go at it at your own speed. I think that was someone else. Everyone takes to college differently, and as long as you eventually get what you want from it, that'll be successful. If it's not right away, just grow into it and give yourself some time. What I really learned initially transferring is what I said, detaching yourself emotionally a little more. That's what I'm doing. I'm walking into the ring and I'm going to work on my throwing today. And if it doesn't go well, that doesn't mean I need to get all emotional about it. You know, it's just a day. We're checking in, we're getting the reps and we're going to make them good reps and we're going to build upon that. So each year kind of took something else on. Definitely that first year at Tennessee, I learned how to train a lot more.
To believe in the process, right? In the process of
I just learned how to train and practice. And then that next year was, that was my junior year is when I became an All-American. That's when I learned we tried to transition more of that into, all right, we set the foundation in training. Let's try and, now build that into competitions and seeing those and reap those, benefits as well. So, it takes time. That's the biggest thing I would tell myself. It's not going to be like high school. It's just, it takes time. It takes more time than others, but you can't be just comparing yourself to your other teammate or to someone else at another school because everyone is different.
That's a very good point you're making, how important it is to compare yourself to yourself, right? Instead of your teammates, or to think about, oh my God, this person got it so easy, right? Why is it taking me so long? If you have a talent and, hopefully you are with a coach who's honest with you, obviously it's easier to see that right away from high school, especially in college, if you have the talent to be a professional now, right? And if you do have that talent, if you're showing that already with whatever workout you're doing, then you have to really trust that the process, the training will come in and you will throw far at some point. That might be next year, might be 4 years, rarely ever more than 4 years. If you're doing good training and you're healthy, it will come. You just have to be patient. And a lot of times you'll see athletes go into in a bad place, nervous, they're disappointed, and then you're just continuing that bad training, feeling bad about yourself instead of just focusing on a goal, right? You had quite a few coaches in your career, right? In terms of picking a school, so let's say you're a high school athlete, you're a junior or senior. How do you pick? What have you learned that you need to be looking for when you're looking for a school? Because there are so many different schools, like you said in your video, right? There's so many different universities, coaches. What do you need to look for?
Well, depending on, like, I guess what I was saying, like the level you're at, that's going to also determine the availability of kind of the school in the direction you're going to go for. It's also, it matters. I mean, college, if you're in line for maybe a scholarship or not, and how important that is for you. If you need to be getting a full ride or something, or if you can swing, not you want a bigger program, so maybe you won't go to a school that can give you a full or things like that. Those are other variables. But for me, especially that second time around of when I was transferring, I just was looking for someone that you can connect with and then build upon. All right, then is this school and this system, and do I feel like this will be a good fit for me? I think it's really important to look at how much time a coach puts into his athletes. That's something that you had talked about with Newell in your guys' podcast, and that's something that I see also in yours. And obviously what you're doing is you obviously put your athletes first, and they know that they can go to you. You put time into their success. You're not just clocking in and clocking out, which is the case for some, throwing coaches. And so just kind of creating and generating a real conversation with the coach, and discussing maybe your goals. And I don't know. It's a very broad question.
A lot of things go into account, right? So many things.
Yeah. I mean, and then of course you have to take your education, you have to take your academics into consideration as well. There were schools that had amazing coaches, but I didn't really want to be going to that type of school. So that definitely also plays a role, and you want to make sure that you are going to be happy there regardless of throwing as well. Or you can see yourself there if throwing doesn't work out, something like that too.
That's a great point. I love that. That's a great point. And that's something that you are obviously from your parents gain long term, right? Can you planning ahead of the time, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, right? Not looking at instantly right now, what can I benefit from? What can in 5 years they can give me, right? You won so many accolades, right? Obviously successful at the college level, high school level, and now professional. You're doing really well. Olympics is postponed. Did you hit the standard?
No, I do not have the standard quite yet. I had reached the world standard last year to allow me to go to world, which has helped my world ranking. I don't know how all that works quite yet with that point system.
It's gonna be now they're gonna have to juggle with those things because obviously the corona. I think you were doing. I'm very sure that you're in top 32, right? So if you're top 32 by ranking, you make the team, you make Olympics, right? There's a standard or the standard 72-50, and then maybe 10 girls have that, but rest of people will go by ranking. And you did really well at the World Championships, and you threw international meets, you threw really well, so those points count.
Ranking is helping me. So I think I was 21st or 22nd or something like that.
Okay. How was competing at World Championships? So right out of college, you're doing really well. You nail it. You throw far. You're in Doha World Championships. How was that experience for you? Different than anything else? Or same?
Worlds was awesome. I mean, Worlds was. I've been to a European champs before and all of that, but I mean, have your first senior world meet was really cool. And I mean, I threw it in the second to last meet I could. So just having that and then going to Worlds and then just don't let it get any bigger than it is. So yeah, I mean, like, accept that you're at the world championships and like this is awesome, but I'm going to go to the practice track for my only practice. There's going to be like tons of people there, but it's just like showing up to SECs, and I'm also sharing a ring with people that are preparing for the comp in 2 days too. So I think after the competition, I allowed myself to be like mind blown and like getting to watch the shot competition live.
Yeah.
You know, the men's shot.
I can't imagine how that was.
Getting to watch that and like being a total fan of that. But luckily I was like the first or second day. So really think like, I'm just sticking, it's just like every other meet, don't blow it out of proportion. Like you're just going to do the same meet. It's the same process. You've seen most of these girls before too, you know? And I'm going to get 3 throws. And I think that was probably the third best throw of my life, second best meet of my life. So, yeah, I mean, I just went for it, and, you know, I was proud of finishing top 20. And then it's just like, it was a good way to end and a good boost, like an ego boost moving into this prep year, which now has been postponed. But yeah, to leave off on a high note was cool. So yeah, Worlds is like crazy, but as far as the meet goes, I really just tried to keep it as basic, and like the energy is going to take care of itself. Like, you know, the hype of being in the World Championship Stadium. So I don't need to overthink it in my own head, you know?
Yeah. Did you always have that pre-meet kind of set up for yourself? Did you always think that way about meets?
No.
But that's really advanced.
I had some major mess ups at big meets, you know. My first outdoors in Eugene, I fouled out when I was a sophomore in college. So I've had meets. My first ever Europeans, I was like 19 in the shot put. I got like second to last, you know. And you know, I could go on with the ones that I've like done poorly at. But no, you just need to. That summer, it was really a good rebuilding of like training again. And there's something really cool to just like I left for Europe and kind of competing for like Greece, and when you're doing that, you're just, you know, you're throwing just to throw at that point. You know, it's not tied to university anymore, and you know, like I'm choosing to throw at that point. So like I need to figure out how to make it work too. No, I definitely have messed up a lot before I have figured out I need to not overthink it and get it in my own way. But yeah, no, it hasn't always been that easy.
That's fantastic though, that you are able to go and learn from your failures, right? I think this is a very important message for all the young throwers who think they are those those people who PR in warm-ups, who foul out, right? It will happen like for yourself, right? So many throwers will be in that situation. Had an athlete who could not hit through the cage to save his life, right? But with failures, with time, learn. It's very important to learn, and you have, and that's amazing, right? I think this is a very important message that you just share to young athletes. If you are that person who's falling out, who's very nervous at the meets, you're getting second to last, which means you didn't foul out, so you still took that throw and kept it, apparently. So that means that there's a hope for you, right? So you can learn. Did you foul out?
No, yeah, I've gotten last on paper, but I mean, it's tough in the moment, but like those, I mean, that sounds so cheesy to say, but it's cheesy because like for a reason. That's what kind of makes you figure out. And what I said before too is in my videos, like the biggest thing was like transferring isn't going to solve your problems. Like failing and doing, like, it's going to expose what you need to work on. And as lame as that sounds, like it definitely showed me I still don't think it was the correct system for me to be in, but it wasn't all one thing and it wasn't all me. I mean, it's just, I had things I needed to change in it, just like I had things I need to change in how I do a meet prep, you know? But finding people around you that can support you to figure that out is also ideal. So having a coach that can help you through that, having a support system that can help you through that, like that's also really big too. You know?
That's, I think, the biggest step that you took right from the beginning for yourself is realization that even if you make a mistake, if you make a wrong decision, that you have to own it, right? You own that, realize that was a mistake, and try to fix it. Don't stick with it like, no, this is great technique, I'm just going to continue to glide for the rest of my life, right? I'm not going to switch to rotation. Just realize that and try, right? Try different things. If you don't try, how are you going to learn, right? So in high school, that brings me back for a second. You were a glider in shot put. I had one of the questions to ask, why did you glide? Why didn't you wait for so long to switch to rotation?
I just started out gliding ever since. I started with like the shuffle, the little sideways shuffle, and then you get to the glide. And I don't think it was, I think, so my high school coach, Kent Pagel, whose wife, Ramona Pagel, was the former American. I think something he did really well in coaching was build up what you were already doing really well and build your confidence in what you're doing. So at the time he met me, I was, my brother Nick coached me to like 40 feet in the glide, as a freshman in high school. And so he saw this kid who was still playing volleyball and, she kind of didn't really like track and field that much. And so even if you thought maybe at the best time I would be a better spinner long term, like maybe in the short term progress of high school or whatever his goal was, just thinking, let's just build up. She's doing some things right. Let's just perfect that and build that up. And I think that's what was most effective for me in high school and when I was gliding, was that I had a confidence in it and that I had built up just reps and reps and reps in confidence and strength in what I was doing so that I could go in and just go on autopilot. And I had that belief in myself that, all right, it's kind of like creating your own throw. I had my own throw and I had, confidence in that. So I think, that spinning in high school never really came up at all, just because I think you just start with the glide and it was proven to be working. So just build up in that,
Way to look at it, right? If it's working, why you don't want to fix it? I posted this a couple of days ago. No woman has ever won a major championships rotating. It was only gliders. Only woman that ever won in shot put a medal was Anita Marton from Hungary. It was indoor world championships. She won, right? But all others were gliders. So it's really unique. But I think obviously now with more people spinning on the women's side as well, right? They might change soon. It'll be interesting to see the Olympics, and for that too, it will be interesting to see how far you're gonna throw for. What's your goal for next year? What's the situation right now? How is your day? What are you training for?
Right now, with everything being pushed back, the week that everything kind of went down and international travel was banned and all of that, I was preparing to leave to go to Portugal to open up training my season at the Winter Throws Cup.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And in April, I was planning to just have headed to Greece and stay there the remainder of the season, probably until September. So I left out on a really high note of that training. I was feeling really good. I had PRs with my training balls and all of that, and it's been a really interesting year with only throwing hammer now. It's been really cool to just kind of fully like dive into that. And obviously, the 72, the Greek national record, that would be a big goal of mine. Obviously get the A standard, but beyond that, I don't really think I have too many distance oriented goals. I want to be in the best position. I want to just throw consistently at a good distance that's going to put me in contention to walk into, hopefully when the Olympics are next year, to walk in and be able to contend for a spot in a final and then be able to put myself in the mix there. So if that means I throw, 71 all year or I can get really consistent at that, that'd be cool, because if I have one big throw and then I can't, replicate it.
Yeah.
I've been in that position before, and I'd rather be really consistent at a distance than have a huge number and not being able to have the confidence to back that up.
Yeah.
So yeah, distance oriented. I don't really have a specific number. I just want to get more experience in competitions, because I mean, I know I've been thrown for a while, but my hammer side, like the Greek coach, he still calls me like just baby hammer thrower because he thinks I don't know what I'm doing and all that. But just like traveling this past summer, like that was huge, check marks off my list. Like having a throw that 71-33 where it actually feels like I just got through the ring and had a clean throw.
Yeah.
I was always telling someone, like, hammer throw it takes too long, and I feel like I just have too much time to mess up what I'm doing. And it's taken me a long time, because shot put is so different, especially the glide shot put's so different. That's you start and you're done. Yeah. So for next year, I'm excited to just get more experience throwing, and I want to be consistent and to set up myself to have a good showing when it matters.
You are already in the situation that you're so close to being in those distances that win medals, right? So I think in the Rio Olympics, 74 took a bronze. So you're knocking at the door. You're doing real well. I'm sure you're going to be invited to all these meets. It's such a shame that Diamond League doesn't have a hammer. I think that's a mistake. It's a really, really great event. I don't think there's a bad event in track and field. So I think that's a mistake. But you do have those big meets that you already competed at, some like Mediterranean Games. I'm sure you're going to compete, Balkan Games, all these big meets. How is for you? How do you handle the travel and the competing overseas? How is that now?
I like it. It's just it's such a different feeling than competing in NCAA athletics. I'm sure you can attest to that too. Yeah. There is this feeling like you wake up, everyone's just sipping coffee. You go head out to the track. All right, we're gonna throw. Like the day I threw at Balkans, the shuttles like showed up 30 minutes before like warm time was supposed to be. There's not this whole process of we need to get to the track 3 hours ahead of time, set up, like just sit there and do all this. People are relaxed, laid back. It's a little, it's just a different feeling to it. Yeah. It's not the end all be all. If I've seen big names just go out and they have like bad days, and then they're just fine 5 minutes later for the post meet banquet. Yeah. It's a lot more of like a job. Like, all right, I have this competition, then I'm gonna head to a different country in 3 days, and I'll try it again then. So I mean, I love competing overseas. Handling the travel, it's not too bad if you're not trying to just jump major time zones all the time. Like what I was planning to do was just go to Greece in April, get adjusted, and then when you're traveling throughout Europe, it's a lot easier on the body. And the decision was Hammer's a little bit bigger there, with a little higher level meets on that meet ranking. Yeah. And I was lucky enough to get into one hammer challenge actually at the end of last year. I wasn't probably qualified, but I was just in the country at the same time, and I was able to be like, talk my way in. Yeah. And that helps me out a huge bunch. But yeah, it's a different vibe. You're seeing a lot less people because it's kind of the same people over and over again. And you're all just trying to go out and throw far at the same time, so I love it. Yeah, you start in the morning with coffee and you end the night with beer.
Yeah. You get to hang out with some incredible people. And like you said, in the morning you have breakfast, you're drinking coffee, somebody smoking a cigarette. There's always somebody smoking cigarettes on the side in Europe, right?
Smoking cigarettes at the track while they're coaching their athletes. Yeah.
And you hang out, and it's what I found out. One of my favorite things was to talk to people at different events, right? So you will all be in this hotel, all the athletes, right? And you just kind of hang out there, managers and everybody, right? You meet a lot of interesting people.
Yeah, and that's also really cool. I do remember Balkans. We were all, it was in a small town. I don't remember exactly where in
Stara Zagora
Bulgaria.
in Bulgaria.
Yeah. No,
Stara Zagora, yeah.
those two, I think. I can't, yeah. Maybe I'm thinking it wrong. But yeah, it was a small little town. And so the entire, like every team was staying in this one big like resort. And it was a really nice resort. And
Yeah.
so then we're all just like seeing each other for probably 5 days. It was like a longer one where we were all there.
Mhm.
And then I'm seeing a bunch of people that were in NCAA athletics. And so it's just a cool, like, and then I'm meeting people from their team, like Maria, the javelin thrower,
Yep.
you know, from Serbia, you know, so then
Yep.
I'm meeting different members of the Serbian team and all of this stuff. And so you're just,
Yeah.
it's the whole hangout essentially.
Yeah. It's like a reunion every time you go to those meets, and you go every year a couple times. You have those kind of team meets, and then individual one you see the same people. It's really becomes like a big high school reunion, right? With high school people that you actually like, right? So,
Yeah.
I think it's incredible time to be an athlete these days. It's such, and John and I talked about, and you and I talked about this as well, how different times is now that people are actually more friendlier. You are talking to other throwers about what you're doing. They're sharing with you what they're doing. And it's really, really a unique time to be a thrower. And I would encourage everybody who has opportunity like yourself to compete after after the college, right? It's such a hard time to be in your throwing career to be after college, right? You need those couple of years to define yourself really as a thrower, because the throwing is an old man's game, right? You have to be, your peak is not till you're 28, 30, 32, right? See someone like Joe Kovac, right? He's killing it right now. He is the best shape of his life, and you look at him like, oh my God, he was a world champion in 2015. He was in college in like 90s, right? But not that long, obviously. But he's been throwing for decades, more than a decade, right? Half, decade and a half, and now he's in his peak, and that's what you talk about your hammer, right? They call you baby thrower in Greece, because really, truly, how long have you been throwing compared to somebody like you were in Hungary, right? To those throwers in Greece, especially Crete, right? Crete, they have those incredible throws there. They start very early, right? So compared to them, how much experience do you think you have now that you saw that?
Well, I mean, talking
In
about
hammer.
Hungary, I mean, you know stories like I have video. I remember going out and there's this little like 8-year-old girl with a 1K hammer, just nailing like a 2-turn, and then I come back the next year and she's added a third turn. I'm just like, she has sicker technique than she has better technique than I do, and it's just kids get into it so much younger there, and I think because they don't have such a wide variety of the draw of American football or other big name sports like we have here. But I did shot put and discus, and I grew into the two of those. And I would say probably I would pick up the hammer and I learned how to do some winds. And I actually was at a UCLA throws camp when I was young, and like I learned how to do turns. But I didn't really know what I was doing. I could do like a 2-turn, and I had like thrown in some random meets unattached just for fun. But when I went to college that first year, Maynard, who was my hammer coach at the time, he just like, back to basics, you're gonna do turns on a straight line. And so like that really like I consider that to be really when I started, because that's really when I started to learn everything. And so then really started to compete in 2016, which was my freshman year when I started to compete. So yeah, you have, the guys in hammer, I mean, you have these little communities, they're like 3-4 coaches that like know hammer throwing. And so these little villages in Greece, like that's where our Tennessee kid, Yorgos Korakidis, he is like, his coach is from this one little village, and like they have produced, a bunch of little hammer throwers.
That's awesome.
And I think that's so cool. Same like you were saying in Crete. That's where our current like hammer thrower, Michalis Anastasakis, he's thrown like 78 meters. Like, he and the other young kid who
Christos,
is Franzakakis. They're from the same town in Crete, and they go to the same coach, or they had the same coach growing up. I love I love hearing about stories like that. And it's the same thing in Hungary. If you've been to the town, it's not some major city. It's just a regular town. Yeah. And they have these amazing facilities, and they just care to put time in and recruit kids and develop them, which is something that I don't think people put a lot of time into here. Yeah. Or we are just so lucky in the US, you just have so many talented kids that can just, if you're not producing right away, like, okay, I can probably find someone who's going to just throw farther easily. Like, you know, it's we just have too many people here.
I think US is the country with the most talents, like yourself, like Diana, like Joe Kovac, Ryan Krauser, Michelle Carter, right? There's so many talents here. And I think what Europe does well, or other countries, is they start them early, right? Not necessarily lifting weights, but they start as a 10-year-old, 12-year-old to do some hammer drills. Like you said, 1K, they would play around with the 1K. And then 5 years later, 7 years later, they're only 18. They're going to get them out of high school, and they already know, okay, next 3 years, when I'm 21, I can see where I'm going to be in this sport. So now tell us a little bit how it is to be a professional thrower now that you're done with college. How is your day to day?
The day to day is it's really different than living in the collegiate life. You know, you aren't structured by class and scheduled meetings and scheduled appointments with academic advisors and professors and all this. So it's really just, it's pretty routine. It's wake up, I eat my breakfast. If I'm throwing that day, I'll go throw in the morning and then go to work. If I'm lifting that day, then I'll go right into work, and then I'll lift more in the afternoon. And like, that's kind of how the day goes. And then it's just eat and repeat. So yeah, post-collegiate life isn't that glamorous, you know?
Are you a master chef now? Do you know, how do you, because it takes so much time to cook. How do you?
I don't like to come home after that long day. Yeah. I've been on campus working or I've been training and then cook for like one meal. No, so like I cook in bulk on Sundays. I usually take that day and I'll cook, and it'll probably last me like the whole week. That's lunches and dinners. Every morning I eat the same thing. It's pretty boring. Like I'll eat just an omelet, like with egg whites and like some egg yolks with spinach, make an omelet and oatmeal. And then like throughout the day, just just basic grains and meat, and then vegetable with that, and like same for dinner. I'm really boring when it comes to food stuff. Like food has become a part of training. Like it's that easy. Like you need to do a lot of it. Yeah, you need to do a lot of it, and that's my purpose. If I wasn't training, I wouldn't be eating as much as I do. Mm-hmm. So like I do it because I have to. Yeah. And so I don't get too fancy with it. Of course, you treat yourself to some stuff here and there, you know, but yeah, I don't get too crazy.
That's a great point that you just made. I think as an athlete, you start thinking about food as part of your training, right? Like you just said. Yeah. And it loses that. I don't think people who are not athletes don't understand. Like I like to cook for myself. Still, my wife takes so much time to cook, right? She doesn't like my food. And she's like, oh my God, it has no taste. I'm like, it's efficient. Like it has everything that I need. It has omega oils, like has protein, has nutrients that I need. I just make a big ball. And I think that becomes a reality really quickly after, having luxury of going to dining halls in college, right? Now it's a little different.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean, if it's like a hobby and that's your downtime, like I know some people love cooking and all that stuff, but I'd rather be spending my downtime doing something else. So I'm going to put in what I need to, like I don't get too involved.
If you guys haven't seen Stamatia's video on YouTube, check it out. She gives us a little bit of a glimpse of her cooking the breakfast. Like, do you do that every time? Do you flip it like that?
Oh, yeah. That's my one cooking trick. Okay. That's all I got.
Okay. That's pretty impressive.
Every morning. If people are over, I'll like bring over the pan right in front of them and flip it for them. But yeah, I can cook. You know what? I'll say this. I can cook a breakfast. I've hosted the brunches before, the Sunday brunches. But after that, like, everything else is pretty basic. Don't come to me for other stuff.
So how's your day now looks like? Like obviously you work, you're competing, you're a professional thrower, you're competing internationally, some big meets, world championships. Oh my God, you come there and you threw amazing. How has your life changed since college?
Um, it's a little more low key, honestly. It's you don't have that same sense of you're with the team. That's a big thing when you transition from college to post collegiate, is you don't have that same team feel. I mean, luckily I still get to be around the team a good amount. I do some videography work, part of the university, so I get to see the team. I got to travel to certain meets with them, so that's been a lot of fun to kind of still have that team aspect. But large amounts of my throwing in the off season, when the kids were throwing the weight throw, I mean, I was having hammer sessions by myself. So that's been a little bit different. But luckily, I mean, Tennessee has totally supported me and being a post collegiate, and their whole VFL Evolve for Life motto. They really hold true to that. So I'm working on campus. I have two kind of part-time gigs in the athletic department, and they've been amazing. They totally understand scheduling and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they've been great.
That's great that you found a place that you can stay at with good people, with working stuff that you can support yourself, obviously, while pursuing your dream, right? What do you find the most difficult at this point? Because you are throwing internationally now, obviously with the corona. How do you keep yourself motivated? What's your goal? Like, obviously, like you said, sometimes you throw by yourself. Sometimes you train by yourself. Obviously, you cook for yourself. How do you stay motivated? What's pushing you?
What's pushing me is that this is the first year that I fully divulged into throwing hammer, and like it's almost like just getting the reps in. Like, I mean, obviously making positive reps, but like just doing that, like I think will be beneficial for me. It's finally a year where I can fully invest into one event, and so my motivation is just like keep putting in the repetition and the work, because I mean, I saw just in the summer of myself only throwing the hammer, I saw a huge improvement. And just, it was kind of a transitioning and learning how I think about hammer and how I even throw the hammer, technically and like conceptually, like just making that shift and getting reps in 3 months, it made a huge difference. So if I'm doing that just on a consistent basis, hopefully I'll see the same jump. And it was really reassuring. I was telling you when I was set to open up in Portugal about a month ago. And, I wasn't able to do that, obviously, due to the coronavirus. But I was able, during that lead up, I saw in training, like, I'm firing right now. There are definitely question marks during the season. I was on a different lifting program. I was doing different throwing stuff. It was like, man, I don't know, this isn't feeling too right now. But like when it mattered, when I was supposed to be preparing for a competition and getting ready, things were firing. And that was really reassuring. Even though I wasn't able to compete, it was like, all right, like, this is working, what I'm doing is working. And that was really reassuring, especially being a post-collegiate this first year out. It's kind of reassuring to know, like, next year I'll even have another year down of doing this. So there were hard moments this year, and now it'll be like I have that kind of confidence in what I'm doing and what I'm building for myself here for training and all that.
I think it's great that what you just mentioned, that it's very important to keep in mind milestones, right? So your training is a true indicator of where you're going to be. Obviously now with some experience in hammer, and I would say you still have way to go, and your coaches know this as well, because you're only seriously been throwing just hammer for a year, right? And the fact that you were able to throw every other event as well, and one of my questions will come up for one event that we're missing, the fact that you are able to throw all that and continue in college to throw over 71, 33, to throw that, it's incredible. Now, who knows, and we don't know yet, right? So how far you can throw hammer when you just throw the hammer. So that's going to be really exciting. Why haven't you thrown javelin? That's the only one event that you that you haven't thrown.
I had to throw javelin in the heptathlon when I did one my freshman year in high school.
Okay.
I had like I did a 3-step. I don't know how far I threw it, maybe like 100 feet. I don't know what that is, or maybe just under that. I really have no idea. And I have messed around with it throughout like college when like there's some jabs out. I love like throwing it and it's really fun, but I think it's just not in the cards. It was a little too late and I don't need to hurt my body anymore.
That's a good reason not to throw a javelin. You're right. You're right. Especially if you're throwing other events. One of the questions, like, don't you wish you were a javelin thrower? I'm sure some of your friends ask you that. Now that you are in professional field, can you share with us, with the people watching now? We talked about this a little bit. Some things through high school, college, and professionally that you wish you knew that would save your time, or in practice or in school or stress. What are some things that you would look for or change in your training or just in thinking in general?
More often than not, as hard as like it's not, you don't have some one phrase that's going to change anything. It's just like you really have to understand that even now I get really frustrated with certain things, and like you're still so young when you're a college athlete, you're still so young when you're a high school athlete. Things develop, things take time. You were just saying, you're in your peak when you're in your late 20s. So I mean, I have still so much I need to learn about and all of that. So just it's going to take time. Like, take some pressure off of yourself, like give yourself a little bit more of a break and allow for that development to happen. More often than not, if you feel this pressure, like, oh my God, people are going to see me not throwing far, they're going to judge me. I mean, people don't care as much, like they have their own stuff they're worrying about. And they probably also, I mean, college coaches, you've seen it before, you understand that, maybe this really big high school throwers just they're gonna need some more time to get into college, or maybe the super raw kid, they just need some training, and then they're gonna pop off and throw something really far, but then maybe not have the consistency they need yet. So people understand, and people aren't gonna be jumping to say like, oh, that person's not throwing far anymore and all this. And so just give yourself the developmental time.
I love that. That's such a big part of everything that you do, right? Focus on yourself, focus on your progress. I think that's why you are where you are, because of that approach, because you saved yourself a lot of time, and I'm sure you could have saved even more and stress if you thought about that every time. It's easier said than done, right? But that's so important to focus on yourself, focus on your progress. And we talked about this on a podcast, and you guys can check it out later. And Stamatia talks about in her YouTube channel as well, how important was your failures in the beginning to come. So this is really impressive. As a first-time competitor at World Championships, to come in and throw really well, it's not something that happens a lot. Alekna, remember, he's major championships. He threw like 58 meters, right? This is a two-time Olympic champion, one of the best throwers of all time, right? He just miserably fails his first, but you have failed before, so you learned, right?
No, people that say, like, when you say like, oh man, you just went out and threw far, at Worlds and all this. Oh no, like I said before, and like I said in the podcast, I have choked it up at major meets. Like I said, fouling out of my first outdoor nationals. I got second to last at my first ever European Championships in the shot put. I see Coach Newell in the comments right now trying to get a shout out. I think we can continue to ignore him. But yeah, I mean, there have definitely been some low moments before I was able to create some consistency and like knowing what works for myself going into a big competition, and say like, all right, I can't make this bigger than it is. Let me just go out and take it like every other competition, So yeah, there are many failures before I got to that level, and there'll probably be some more failures before I, reach your optimum potential,
It definitely, and it's so important we talked about this, how it's how humble you are. It's incredible to see somebody at your level in high school, in college, and professionally to realize like, hey, I'm doing something wrong. Hey, this place is not for me, or I need to find myself in a position to succeed. And obviously, you found yourself in with a great coach at a great university with John Newell, that you just took it to another level, and now you're taking it even further. And I talked to John as well, how incredibly, not just humble, obviously he's a humble guy as well, but how smart it is to reach out and say, okay, Stamatia, let's figure out now just hammer. Let's figure out with your coach in Greece. Let's put him into the picture and let's work this together. Let's make you the best that you can. And that's really impressive and rare to see sometimes, that the coach is like, okay, let's go to another level now. Let's find some help, right?
I mean, I don't want to compliment him too much because I see now he's watching and commenting. But of course, I mean, that's something that drew me, and obviously was a big factor in Tennessee, is someone that doesn't take themselves too seriously and think that they know everything there is about training. I mean, that's the reason why UVA and Tennessee were big factors for me in transferring. You know, talking with someone like you, I mean, like I said before in recruiting, just being able to have a conversation with someone, no show, how are we going to get along, and how are we going to to make this work? These are my potential goals. Do you think you can help me in all of this? And to also then say, like, I still have room to grow in myself as a coach, you know, let's reach out. I mean, Hammer is not your specific event, and you've coached now Hilmar to great success. I'm sure you had to do your own research and digging there too. So that's a huge plus for me when I see coaches that are willing to talk with other coaches, talk with athletes, talk with different training systems and all of that. And so, I mean, that was the big factor for me. And going into now a year on my own, I mean, this also, Newell has his own team that he needs to be, that's his job, is the Tennessee Throwers. And so to kind of alleviate some of that pressure on him to be maintaining that, working with Alex, I mean, when they were both in Doha, they spent, a lot of the days they were just discussing Hammer stuff. And so, sharing training ideas, it can help and bring back into your own collegiate system as well. And so, it's bettering for me. It's bettering for him. It's just a win all around, I think. But yeah, I mean, that's a big thing for me when coaches are able to acknowledge, like, let's go here for some maybe additional information, see what I can add to what I already know.
Yeah, different perspectives, right? I had my good friend of mine and John's, Andras Haklic, helped me a lot with Hilmar as well, because obviously Hilmar is 75-meter guy. I believe he's going to throw over 80 in his career. And I told Haklic, who's 80-meter thrower, who trained in Hungary, you've been there to Stamatia, right? I was like, Haklic, this is out of my range. Like, this is the guy who's going to throw 80 in discus, in shot put, in javelin. I'm very confident. I've been there, but you have to realize, like, hey, this is bigger than yourself. This is the kid that can reach the highest levels. Let's just find different perspective and see what works for this kid, right? And especially these days, like Sean Dowling, like yourself, all you athletes right online now who are very successful, sharing your knowledge, sharing your experience. I think we're living in an unprecedented times, and I thank you so much for sharing your videos, sharing your experience. It's not easy to take a video yourself and make a YouTube video like you have answering questions.
I'd rather be taking videos of other people and creating content of other people. But I think it's something cool. I mean, people have been telling me to do this for a while, this type of stuff, and so as long as it can help people. It's like I said before, you don't know the world you're stepping into from high school to college, from college to post-collegiate, and if people can share that information, there are plenty of people online that are more than willing to help out. I just shouted out just like you and, Ryan Whiting, as far as people for young people to be looking at. But, I mean, there's so many athletes that are, if you just message them, they're definitely going to be willing to help out. So I think that's a great thing.
Who's your idol? Who was your idol throwing when you were growing up, or who did you look up to?
I can't say. I mean, someone like my brother. My brother was a total throwing nerd. He drew out chalk circles in the backyard to throw, and he filmed himself doing discus drills in like 7th grade. And he was watching film all the time. I mean, I was slowly introduced to it and had that kind of like, it wasn't love at first sight when I started throwing, and I didn't know too much. But I mean, obviously, someone who had a major impact on me was Ramona Pagel. Just because I was able to build that relationship, and she taught me a lot about just like, uh, little things about, training. And she'd been to some bigger meets with me, and a lot about competition I learned from her. So, I mean, I think that's just one I hold on to because I was so young when I met her, and she was, I learned a lot from her. But I mean, watching someone like Deanna and getting to know Deanna, like, she was actually in Hungary, and that's the hammer challenge I was able to sneak my way into somehow. But she flew out, and I had already been there for like a week, and she came out, and like just the nicest person, the kindest person, someone like, she maybe had remembered me, like just seeing me around, but she gave me like the biggest hug. We were staying at the same hotel, we would eat together, we went to the store together, just like, and we just talked. So, I mean, and she's just so open and willing to just kind of share her ideas and all of this. And we kind of did our little pre-meet together, and, threw with her in a competition. And then, like what we were saying, then there's the post-meet festives after. And so, I mean, yeah, it's just someone, like, that's someone, just the kindest person, and that's who you want to see. Especially someone that's dominating sport is just such a humble person as well. So I would say currently throwing, yeah, I'm a big fan of her. Just I mean, you take out like just the person she is really awesome. So
it's incredible for me to see anytime I see someone like that at that level, right? Like, you're crushing your competition, but you're still so down to earth and friendly and helpful. It's amazing to see. I always think of during back in the days, my time, Primož Kozmus. He was one of my favorite guys. You see him, he's an Olympic champion, he's a world champion, he's throwing almost 83 meters, 82 something, right, at the time. And you think of him like, oh my God, that's an Olympic champion. You come to him, he's like, hey Martin, how are you? Like, he knows everybody's name, all the kids around that throwing. He's cheering for everybody. And like, this is Olympic champion. Like, this is so cool. For the rest of my life, I'm gonna think highly of him, right? Because of he took that time to understand that at some point he was also there, right? Little people, right? So what is your some like I said, next goal is the Olympics you have coming up. You are obviously canceled the season. How are you training right now? Difficulties that you have in this situation.
Yeah, right now I do have I'm not doing a lot of throwing. I'm just doing a lot of drill work stuff, because I think the best thing right now is just to not like let this over like stress you out and think about like, if I'm not doing all the training I need to be doing, I need to be freaking out. Like, I'm doing pretty general maintenance stuff in the weight room, and I do have a place to lift. And as far as throwing, it's a lot of drills right now, which like I'm already like I'm not great at. So it's just getting the reps in and the drills in, and yeah, just not like, I think more answers will come in the next few weeks, and then we'll be able to plan better training through there. But don't overdo it trying to be out there taking 30 rep bunch of rep practices at full 100%, because I for myself, I just don't think that would be great right now. I pushed through with my training cycle right before, when I was just on target to be opening up, and that was really good. And that was a good moment to kind of just like, all right, I think I have it. Like, I know what I'm doing is working, and what we've all been doing is working. So I'm okay to just like not freak out, do what we all need to be doing right now, and do what I can. And like, when more answers come out, kind of prep from there as well. So yeah.
Stamatia, tell us a little bit about injuries in your career, surgery that you had that kind of pause your success and march to the top on SCA, because you were definitely marching really, really fast towards that. How do you deal with injuries mentally and physically, obviously?
Yeah, I have been really fortunate enough to not have experienced crazy injuries. I don't know if that's because I learned how to lift at not relatively young, about 16, and I didn't go crazy in the weight room, but I have been really fortunate to not see tons of back injuries or have these major freak accidents. But something that happened this past, I mean, it honestly just happened over time. As I needed a minor elbow surgery. I had floating bone fragments, and a bone spur in my elbow, which
that's why you were not javelin thrower. See?
Yeah. Yeah, from years of just banging on a shot put and probably missing throws and all that. Yeah. But it was actually like the middle of my junior year. I mean, I remember like before STCs or something like that, I took I wasn't taking tons of throws because I was getting elbow pain, and I felt it before at the end of a long year, and like usually just like rest would make it better.
Yeah.
But I found out that I had a bone spur, and I went on to compete in that European season and European championships in Berlin. And then I came back and got an MRI, and because the pain was still there, and I was like, wow, like rest didn't just fix it. I guess I'm getting a little older. Because when you're young, just like taking off a month, your body just reheals itself. And
like Wolverine. You were like Wolverine.
Yeah.
Go back at it.
Yeah. But no, it was a little more serious, and we looked at it, and there was the floating bone fragments, and I needed a scope surgery. And we kind of debated doing it because it wasn't directly affecting hammer, but it was definitely affecting shot putting. And I had decided I want to be able to contribute what I can for the team. NCAA is about and especially in the SEC, it's like point scoring. I want to do what I can. I want to do my part. And even if it wasn't directly affecting me in the hammer, maybe subconsciously I was protecting my elbow, because it definitely was hurting my shot put and even discus. So anyways, I got surgery end of October or beginning of October, and that really put me out. I had never had to deal with an injury where I actually have to sit out.
How was that?
Yeah, I'm a very that was not good for me. I was trying to do stuff, the week after, while I was still on pain meds, which isn't good. But it was crazy. It's a crazy instance where, I was probably really upset after having a checkup with the surgeon being like, yeah, it's going to be 8 weeks until you're going to be fully good to go. And I was really upset, and I was distraught. And I remember the sprints coach, Ken Harden, came over to me and gave me a hug. Hey, when are world championships? And I was like, I don't know. They're in October or whatever they were. He was like, you're going to be good. You're going to be okay. Yeah. And that type of perspective of having, that full year in mind, I just had to be okay with I probably haven't had this much time off in a really long time. Yeah. Let yourself just decompress, let your mind rest, and let's just that's when I really started. That's also, that's when I started to get my eating a lot better, as far as consistently eating, and what other aspects of training can I perfect now without being able to fully throw and do everything I want to be. So, yeah, that was tough to deal with. It was hard to kind of be sitting out and watching as people were able to throw. I did so many safety squats on a shoulder like this. And I did, it was tough, but I didn't want to be then overlooked for the outdoor season or indoor season. And that's when I made the big push to gain as much muscle as I could, or just gain weight, and to be able to throw the weight far. Cause I told Newell, I was like, I want to be still in contention. And he was like, all right, then you're going to need to gain 10 to 15 pounds. Yeah. And I tried to do that and so, as much muscle as I could. And it worked. I threw 24 meters. But it definitely, the surgery had an effect on my hammer training, because I didn't really start throwing hammer until outdoor season. Because also the weight throw is such a big deal, and point scoring and all this type of stuff. It's a big part of the collegiate season, and that's part of being in an SEC school. You have to take on, I committed to throwing for points and throwing to be a part of this team and to make this team better. So yeah, I'm going to throw the weight throw. And I think I scored 1 point in the indoor shot, just having thrown it once before that. But yeah, I really didn't start throwing hammer until that outdoor season. And now looking back, I had, I was throwing way higher than I was the year before. My average was, I think I opened up at like 67 and I was throwing 67s a lot. And, I threw 68. I probably was consistently higher. And even at nationals, that was such a hard, moment for me. I was so, it wasn't the way I wanted it to end. I still threw like 67 something, which was still probably on average higher than like where I consistently was at the year before. And with such little time, I was trying to gain the reps in while competing. But that's just how it unfolded. And I was able to like then fully put everything into the summer season. And I actually ended my season a year later than when I got my surgery. So I kind of like landed on the same day. But injuries, I mean, they're difficult and you need to respect them and give it the time that they need. So that's like the biggest thing. I was someone that had to kept being like pulled back. No stam, you can't do snatches yet. Like no stam, you can't be doing, throwing fully again. Like let's just give the time. And that was something that was hard for me. But now, I've learned that. Earlier this year when I was doing my snatch maxes, I had, 210 pounds, which is like 92 kilos or something over my head. I had just hit like 90 kilos. I was feeling good and I hit it over my head and it just, all went completely backwards and, injured my shoulder a little bit. And like, I realized, okay, like it's not hurting while throwing. Let's not be doing snatches. Like give it rest, give it time. Don't aggravate it. Don't push it. You don't need to be snatching tons of weight. That's not your goal. You're not a weightlifter. So, I mean, having that surgery, like, and going through that injury process, you just have to respect your injury and respect your body, and it'll help you out in the long run as well.
I love how you took that time to assess what's the best that you can do in your situation. So you just said you spent time after recovery, you came back and you were getting reps during competitions, right? Like you knew you were behind, but you were still smart enough. You wanted to do much more, but you were smart enough to rest as much as it needed so you can come back at the point that you can, come back safely at, and that you were doing things that you can. So I think that's very important to keep in mind that even though, your knees out, you can do your upper body. If your shoulders out, your elbow, you can do your lower body, right? With a safety bar that you did, right? So you're like, okay, what can I do still with this injury that I can get better, right?
Yeah, and that was a lot more on like Coach Newell and everyone else helping me out. I mean, I was the one having to be like, no, Sam, don't do this, don't do it. Like, no, we gotta change it. Now I probably at least would be a little bit better with that. But I mean, I had a great support system that was able to like just tailor me in the right way. Like, yeah, you're gonna have to do this type of squats for a little bit, and we gotta do a bunch of left-handed drills, and you gotta do a bunch of, all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
That is very true. That is very true. And I would add to that as a coach, it is very true. It's important to have people around you, trainers, coaches who know what you need after such an event. Also, it's up to you. And I've seen this, unfortunately, some cases it worked out, some cases it didn't. I haven't seen it go terribly wrong, but I saw athletes postpone their recovery because they will go on the side and do what they think they should do, right? So you have to restrain yourself from there because you do think you're invincible. Like, oh, it's better now. Like, oh, what's 6 weeks? I'm done in 3, right? Boom, I go throwing. I'm like, coach, I kind of took some drills. Like, no. So like I said, I haven't seen it backfire so much that the career is over, but I've seen it prolong unnecessarily, right? So it's up to you, too, to take that responsibility.
Yeah, I probably wasn't the easiest to deal with. I was pushing back with trainers. I was like, are you sure the surgeon said that in our, meetings? I mean, that's part of being an athlete. You want to get back as soon as possible. I mean, I was lucky that I had people that were like, no, you cannot be practicing. You cannot be doing this. And it annoyed me at the time, and it angered me so much. But I mean,
Yeah.
in all reality now, I don't have that, injury now. And
Yeah, you got to weigh it out. You got to be smart, and regardless how bad you want it, right? You got to do it in the right way. And you did come back. You came back a big way. You won SEC. You didn't just win. You threw it to over 24 meters.
24. Oh, I'm really bad with my PRs.
Yeah.
24:06 or something like that.
Something like that. That's so far. That is really far. How are you not being 6'8" tall throwing 24 meters? You were so fast. What was that like to throw 24 meters in a weight?
Oh man, it has to go back to the part of what I was saying. Like, I just felt like I have a problem sometimes translating practice throws into competition throws. I've been throwing 22 meters and like falling around doing it.
Yeah.
And I had a taste of throwing far. It was at, a meet right before SECs. It was a warm up in between prelims and finals. And I took a warm up throw and it was like 23 something meters. And I was like, God, like get out of your own way. And what SECs was is I was just throwing 22 meters consistently. And my fifth throw, I nailed the throw. It hit the cage though, and it still went like 22 something.
Oh,
I mean, so I was like, oh, like I like that was more built up, pent up, and I was just like, that's when you just, you start seeing red. Like I don't know what I was thinking during that. Like I was just in it to nail that last throw.
Question mark 6X, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's always there's
Was that on your last throw?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the best. So what was going through your mind in that last throw?
I mean, it was literally like, just do exactly what you just did, because that throw right before it was it too. It was just, you hit the handle hit like right off the top of that cage, and it was still a fair throw, but like it obviously was lacking the distance I wanted because it hit the cage. It's like, just do the same thing, just line it up and do the same thing, and that was just like the rage that I had. But yeah, I mean, yeah, they're the emotional highs that you get after doing something like that too. But yeah.
That I'm sure it was so rewarding to throw a massive throw on your last throw of the championships meet. That must be really amazing. Stamatia, thank you so much for your time. You've been very helpful. This is great. What you're doing right now is helping other people who are in your shoes save their time, save stress with sharing your knowledge, and I applaud you for that. And I really mean it from the bottom of my heart, because I know how difficult it was for me when I was a high school athlete, when I was a student athlete and professional thrower. And I know for a fact that there's so many young people are looking at it like, oh, see, like this is what I'm going through. This is what I was thinking. Like nobody gets me, right? So thank you very much for that.
Of course. Like, thank you for what you're doing. Like, keep doing it. Like, I'm excited to watch and listen to the rest of the podcasts. Yeah, thank you very much for having me and letting me share my stories and all that stuff too.
Definitely. This is all for you guys. So thank you so much, and hopefully we talk soon, okay?
Yes.